The Javits Center hummed like a trading floor. A ribbon of LEDs scrolled Wall Street Summit, ethics in M&A, and cameras idled, waiting for a soundbite sharp enough to move a stock dot. Lena Carter tightened the lav mic at her collar. The badge on her blazer, interim CFO, Carter Holdings, felt heavier than plastic. Somewhere uptown, her father, Arthur Carter, would be watching from his wood-paneled office, Mont-Blanc pen aligned with military precision along a folder's edge. When your last name sat on the building, you didn't get to miss, on stage. The panelists took their seats. Marcus Reed, a takeover artist whose smile had dismantled more companies than recessions, and Ethan Cole, founder of Cole Strategic, a quiet fund with a reputation for clean math and colder patience. The moderator didn't bother easing them in. Can M&A create shareholder value without gutting people and legacy? Marcus smiled like a man who owned the definition of value. Markets reward efficiency, not sentiment. Ethan spun his pen once, voice even. In the long run, transparency is cheaper than litigation, and honesty is cheaper than spin. The moderator turned to Lena, Carter Holdings. Lena kept her gaze steady. Every deal has to answer 3 questions. What core capability survives? How many jobs are preserved? Will an independent audit flinch? If the answer's shaky, your premium's not a windfall. It's ooze. She paused, letting the words land. Prepaid funeral costs. A ripple of ooze. Marcus cocked his head, amused. Ethan's eyes ticked with quiet approval. Mr. Cole, the moderator pressed. You've been accused of cutting 1,000 jobs to clean up a prior acquisition. Ethical? Ethan didn't blink. The company was out of cash and over covenants before we arrived. We transitioned 70% of staff to a partner on 3-year contracts with retraining and salary protection. Independent audit verified. Numbers didn't flinch. Lena noted that transitioned, not axed for later. She trusted audits more than anecdotes. The panel rapped 2 polite applause and a flood toward the lobby espresso carts. Lena slipped off stage, phone buzzing. Naomi Brooks, Independent Audit Counsel, got 10 minutes. You'll want to see this. They met at a 2nd-floor cafe overlooking the Hudson. Naomi wore a gray coat and the calm of someone whose favorite word was footnote. Someone's staging a hostel for Carter, she said, sliding a slim packet between the cups. Same SPV staircase I've seen in 3 Reed deals. Senior debt with sweetheart covenants. A bridge that forces a step up, and advisory fees parked in a shell. The end game is always the same. Bleed the non-core, then rescue the crown jewel for cheap. Lena flipped pages. Highlighted clauses stared back like warnings ignored. Proof beyond the pattern. Naomi tapped a tab. Appendix sci-fi transfers executed before the target's first board deliberation. If you want daylight, I can go to the regulators. But my advice, lock the debt, build a wall, then speak. Markets like process. Send me a clean data set, Lena said. Tonight, Naomi nodded. One more thing. Cole Strategic holds your paper. If Reed wins dirty, Cole loses. On bonds, Ethan's economically aligned with you. Lena filed that under useful, not decisive. Thank you. Back in the main lobby, Ethan was returning a mic to an assistant. He caught Lena's eye, offered a businesslike nod. Your prepaid funeral line will trend, he said. Your spin is expensive. Line should, she countered. We both like clean numbers. On that, he said, we're aligned. She tilted her head. You hold Carter debt, which means I prefer you solvent, he said, not apologizing for it. If you smell dirty SPVs, don't call the press. Call an independent auditor. His voice lowered a notch. And if you need a second set of eyes, call me. Sloppy math distorts the equation. Oddly earnest. Not a pickup line in operating principle. Duly noted, Lena said, and moved on. On the subway up to Midtown, her phone pinged. Naomi, clean SPV pattern attached. NDA enclosed. Lena skimmed a heat map of covenants and fees. The step-ups were designed to suffocate. A second buzz. Unknown. Carter is about to be liberated. Let the adults handle it. Mr. Marcus Reed, graceless in victory and foreplay, at Carter's 32nd floor boardroom. Arthur stood by the window, Manhattan glitter laid out like an index fund. The Mont Blanc waited at attention. You were on TV, he said, half proud, half warning. A panel, Lena said. I kept it neat. Neat doesn't comfort shareholders, he replied. Remember, Carter is not for sale. Not cheap, she corrected gently. And not without a spine. She laid a single page on the table. Ethics clause, pre-deal conditions. 3 bullet points. Independent audit, pre, during, post. No off-book advisory, fees, or side letters. Preserve core workforce in any scenario. Arthur studied it. A page of paper won't save a family name. It'll save our face while we fight, Lena said. And give us the frame to win. He waited 1 heartbeat, then uncapped the pen. The signature landed with the confidence of a man who'd signed ships and factories. The clause wasn't armor, but it was a standard, and standards were hard to counterfeit. Her phone buzzed again. Subject, term sheet _draft.pdf from Marcus Reed. No greeting. Just the payload. Marcus booked the boardroom for 2 p.m., Lena said, or he threatens to go public. Arthur's jaw ticked. Let him come. That night, Lena combed Naomi's file, stacked SPVs, trapped covenants, fees tucked like contraband. Carter's tech division was the backbone. The scattershot real estate, not so much. An email slid in from Cole, strategic. If you need an audit, unconflicted, hire Brooks. And on the bond side, I'm on your team. EC, she exhaled, a laugh she didn't expect. A billionaire emailing, "Don't be dirty," sounded like satire till you realized it was self-interest plus discipline. She could work with both. A calendar invite popped. Boardroom 2 p.m. Another, regulatory liaison, on hold if needed, from Naomi.Lena, slipped the signed ethics clause into a folder. The paper suddenly heavier. Out past the glass, Midtown flickered in grids. Somewhere on Park Avenue, Ethan Cole was probably stacking terms like bricksnot to trap them. But to brace a wall. Minimally dramatic, she told herself, shutting down her laptop. Maximally clean. The market loved a show. She'd rather it love a number. Tomorrow, Reed would bring a script. She'd bring a framework and a pen that didn't shake. By 9:15 a.m., the rumor had a heartbeat. Finance blogs ran with a source familiar with the matter. Carter Holdings exploring strategic alternatives after approach from an activist fund. Traders didn't need the name to guess it. Marcus Reed. Carter stock twitched upward, the kind of bounce that felt like a dare, on the 32nd floor. Lena had the blinds open, Manhattan bright and clinical beyond the glass. Naomi Brooks joined on video, a white wall behind her. A stack of binders arranged with surgical calm. Same staircase as last night, Naomi said, clicking through slides. SPV1 with Sweetheart Senior Covenants. SPV2 as a bridge that forces a step up. And advisory fees shunted to a shell before governance kicks in. 3 prior read deals. Same fingerprints. Arthur stood at the far end of the table, arms folded. If we drag this into daylight, do we win or just bleed slower? We win if we sequence, Naomi replied. Lock the debt. Build the wall. Then speak. I've drafted a notice to regulators that does not cry wolf and does preserve. Chain of custody. Lena's pen hovered and landed. We have our ethics clause signed. We anchor on that. She lifted her eyes to Arthur. If Reed tries to paint us as panicking, the clause reframes it. We're principled, not fragile. Arthur grunted, a concession in his dialect. We still need a balance sheet plan. Lena tapped a contact. A second window opened. Ethan Cole, background Park Avenue, minimalism. He could have been in a showroom for restraint. You've seen the rumor, Lena said. Hard to miss, Ethan answered. Your debt is where I participate, so I care about how this gets unmade. You need a white knight knot, a savior, a structure. My draft term sheet does 4 things. 1. Independent audit at pre-mid-post. To no hostile takeover covenant. 3. Preserve core workforce. For monetized non-core real estate to deliver without touching the tech spine. The brand stays Carter. Arthur's look was flinty. And your price? Clean process, Ethan said. Market rate for any capital employed. No advisory kickbacks, no side letters. If I violate the ethics framework, you get an exit clause to up my sheet, penalty-free. Naomi leaned in. If Cole Strategic co-signs an ethics undertaking, I'll publish a transparency statement with numbers, not adjectives. Markets can fight rumor. They can't fight math. Lena's phone buzzed. Marcus Reed Boardroom at 2 o'clock, or I go public. No hello, no signature. Just the clock. Arthur looked at the message, then at his daughter. Let him come at 11:10. The office kitchen was empty except for the burr of an espresso machine. Ethan walked in, no entourage, sleeves unrolled. Tie straight. You'll have my no advisory kickback clause in writing, he said without preamble. And the exit clause you asked for. You stand at the podium? I stand behind the spreadsheets. Lena measured him, the way she measured a model assumptions first, outcomes second. My father will ask why you're suddenly noble. I'm not noble, Ethan said. I'm aligned. If Reed wins dirty, I lose money. If Carter loses its backbone, I lose faith. I built my fund on trusting boring numbers more than exciting stories. And if this turns into an exciting story, he almost smiled. Then we make the numbers louder. Her phone vibrated. Naomi Regulatory Liaison on standby. Transparency statement drafted if you agree. Lena nodded to Ethan. 1 hour for your draft. 1 hour, he said, and left as cleanly as he came. 1:59 p.m., boardroom. The table was walnut and theatre. Marcus Reed arrived with 2 associates, laptops open like open carry. He shook Arthur's hand like a man comforting a widower. Arthur, Lena. Marcus's voice had Sunday morning confidence. The market's anxious. My fund can free the value trapped in Carter. 28% premium, cash. We streamline, focus on crown jewels, and everyone wins. Define, streamline, Arthur said. Marcus's teeth flashed. Rationalizing non-core assets, renegotiating labor where necessary. Lena said, sliding a slim packet across the table. Ethics clause, pre-deal conditions, and employment protection personages, not vibes. We can discuss anything after those signatures. Marcus skimmed, the smile thinning. Charming, but the world is messy. The door opened. Naomi stepped in, placed a single-page transparency statement on the table, and stayed standing. Before messy, let's do verifiable, she said. 3 recent deals, led by funds associated with Mr. Reed, include advisory fees, routed pre-deliberation. Appendix C is attached. Carter is prepared to notify regulators after we secure internal safeguards. We invite all parties to consent to an independent audit now. Silence, the kind that rearranges a room. Marcus didn't look at the paper. He looked at Lena. You know I can go directly to the shareholders by close of business. Arthur set the Mont Blanc down like a gavel. And before you reach a microphone, Carter will publish its ethics clause, employment protection, an intent to undergo independent audit. Then shareholders will ask you about Appendix C. Answer however you like, Marcus. A vein ticked at his temple. He pivoted to Lena as if Arthur were just architecture. Join my bid. We'll keep the name. I'll even let you run the ethical transition. Headlines write themselves. What I want isn't a headline, Lena said. It's a balance sheet that can look my people in the eye. She slid a second document forward. Alternative, white knight structure. Clean audit, no hostile, no kickbacks. Exit if breached. You want to free value. Start by signing the ethics page. For a flicker, Marcus admired the composure. Then his smile sharpened. You've learned the language. Good. Now hear the music. He closed his laptop. I'll let the market decide. He left the statement on the table, and the door swung shut with a corporate click. Arthur exhaled, then recovered into steel. Next move. Lena's phone chimed. Cole Strategic Term Sheet Draft. Subject line. No hostile takeover, no advisory kickback, exit clause if breached. She held the screen so Arthur could see. Next, she said, steady. We publish ethics plus employment plus audit, and we prep this white knight. Naomi gathered the pages. I'll handle the numbers outside. Arthur looked at his daughter, not at her resume, but at her spine. Do it. At 3:40, Carter's website posted 3 things. The ethics clause, the employment protection metric, and a commitment to an independent audit. Forums that had been drooling over Reed's rumored premium switched to parsing Carter's math. The stock bobbed, then steadied. A text slid onto Lena's screen from an unknown number. Not over. Mr. Shi didn't reply. Another ping, Ethan. Car sent to Park Avenue. I can bring the draft and leave by the service elevator. You keep the podium. Lena set the phone down and looked out at Midtown's late light. The plan wasn't perfect. It was clean. Sometimes that was the only edge you got. Down the hall, the comms team rehearsed lines. In her folder, a signed one-pager weighed more than it should. Out there, Marcus would crank the rumor mill. In here, Lena would make the numbers louder. And somewhere, a pen would either sign an audit or a press release. By sunrise, the crawl on a morning business show read like a verdict. Cole Strategic circling Carter. White Knight or backdoor takeover. A split screen showed Ethan's headshot beside Lena's. Then cut to B-roll of the Carter sign on 6th Avenue. The host grinned into the camera like he'd found a new scandal to raise ratings. Lena muted the TV and sipped black coffee. The plan was clean, not flashy. Clean didn't trend. Her calendar chimed. 8:30 a.m. Arthur, Ethan, counsel. Notably, it was in Arthur's office, not the boardroom. Family ground, not corporate ground. Arthur's suite looked like old Wall Street, wood, steel, and silence. The Mont Blanc sat on a blotter as if it were a witness. Ethan arrived without entourage. Dark suit, tie straight, face unreadable. He shook Arthur's hand like a man who understood heirlooms. Arthur went first. "I've signed our ethics clause. That's our flag. If you want to stand near it, I need more than a term sheet." Ethan nodded once. "What makes it enough?" Arthur slid a thin addendum forward. 3 things. Community jobs, covenant 92% of core roles preserved for 18 months. Retraining fund seeded 50-50 by Cole and Carter for displaced non-core staff. Transparency dashboard, quarterly public reporting on headcount. Audit milestones and capital employed. Ethan scanned. All publishable. Yes, Arthur's gaze didn't waver. "If we're clean, we act like it." "Good," Ethan said. He uncapped his own pen. "I'll sign the addendum and fold it into our term sheet. And I'll accept your exit clause. We breach, you can walk, no penalty." Arthur didn't smile, but something in his shoulders eased. "Then we have a frame." They were halfway through counsel's red lines when Lena's phone lit up with a Slack repost from an anonymous burner, a PowerPoint slide stamped. Carter Phase 1 headcount reduction, 18%. The font was wrong. The language was softer than any real riff memo. And the timestamp in the tiny lower corner, 8:02 a.m., was 30 minutes before this meeting began. The first comments under the leak spewed panic. Whoever posted it tagged 3 reporters. Arthur's jaw set. "Who sent that?" Ethan leaned in, eyes narrowed. "Not me, and not my language." "Everybody says that when they're lying," Arthur said. "Then let's not guess," Lena said, forcing the floor back to data. "Naomi." Within minutes, Naomi was on speaker, voice steady. "Send me the image." Lena forwarded it and watched the dots pulsing as Naomi typed. 30 seconds later, Naomi returned. "Fake. The font kerning's off. The master slide isn't your corporate deck. And the metadata says it originated on a Windows box registered to read capital. Timestamp routes through a disposable VPN, but the chain is sloppy. Someone wanted it to travel fast, not withstand scrutiny." Arthur exhaled through his nose, then looked at Ethan. "Apologies." Ethan shook his head. "Keep the suspicion. It's free risk management." Lena felt something unclench. "We go first with our own numbers," she said. "Publish the community jobs covenant and the retraining fund today with the ethics clause. Put the transparency dashboard into the same release. It kills the rumor vector." "Do it," Arthur said. Ethan added, "And move the White Knight from rumor to working group." "I'll second a team to Carter 2 analysts, 1 ops lead reporting to Lena, not me. No optics of a coup." "Good," Lena said. "They sit in our conference room, not yours." They broke at 10:15. Ethan left through the service corridor to avoid cameras. Arthur walked Lena to the door and, for once, didn't give advice disguised as orders. "Your mother and I built a name, not a fortress," he said, adjusting a cufflink that had belonged to his father. Names are lost faster than they're earned. You keep it, we keep it. I know, Lena said. And I know what I'm asking you to risk. Just don't make me read about my legacy in a rumor feed, Arthur said. It was gruff and almost tender. By noon, Carter's communications site posted a new package, ethics clause signed. Community jobs, covenant 92% preserved, 18 months. Retraining fund $15 million, split evenly. And a mock-up of the transparency dashboard with the first quarter's targets. The release didn't mention Ethan, it mentioned math. Commentators pivoted from breathless speculation to cautious respect. One anchor, disappointed by the lack of blood, conceded on air. If you want to fight a rumor, put out numbers. At 12:40, Naomi pinged Lena. Regulatory notice filed. Careful wording, no accusations, just process. Also, the leak origin story is worse for read if it sticks. At 1:05. Legal forwarded a public filing. Schedule 1 3DA read. Capital Marcus had amended his position and checked the box for intent to influence. Control. He added a paragraph about initiating conversations with shareholders regarding board composition. Arthur read it and snorted. He thinks if he can't buy the house, he'll change the locks. Then we fix the hinges, Lena said. I'll line up 3 long-only funds this afternoon. They love dashboards. At 1:30, Ethan's team arrived 3 people in quiet suits with laptops, credentials, They took seats in Lena's glass-walled conference room. The ops lead, a woman with a marine haircut and a project manager's calm, introduced herself as Cara James. We're here to build the wall, not run your house, she said. You say jump, we check the landing first. Across the hall comes rehearsed talking points for an internal town hall. Lena highlighted 2 sentences and deleted a third. No euphemisms. If she had learned anything from the last 24 hours, it was that people could smell varnish. By late afternoon, the panic in Slack had settled to a simmer. The fake RIF slide was now an inside joke with a better font. A junior PM pasted the transparency dashboard mock-up into a channel and added a fire emoji. Small signal, big meaning dot. At 4:12, Lena's phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. Nice dashboard. Shame about the board. Mr. Shi didn't reply. Instead, she stood at the window, watching the lights slide off Midtown's glass. Marcus would chase the board seats. Fine, she had numbers, a covenant, an audit, a working group and, for the first time, a family standard stronger than sentiment. Her email chimed. Naomi, heads uppy, just hired a proxy advisor. Expect a harassment campaign dressed as shareholder democracy. Also, dinner. You haven't eaten in 2 days. Lena smiled despite herself. Only if you promise to talk about anything but footnotes, she wrote back. She reached for the folder on her desk, the one with the ethics clause, the jobs covenant, and a term sheet with enough teeth to matter. Clean wasn't sexy. It was sustainable. A calendar alert blinked for town hall. 5 p.m. time to make the numbers louder than the rumor. Down on the crawl, a new chyron rolled. Carter Publishers Jobs Covenant. Read amends, 1-3D. The host sounded disappointed. Markets sounded relieved. Family names survived 2 things, storms and reality. Today, Lena intended to give them both. At 5 p.m., the town hall felt like a courtroom. 800 employees on the live stream, another 200 in the cafeteria. Faces lit by company-issued laptops, and a fear nobody says out loud. Lena stood at the podium with the ethics clause, jobs covenant, and retraining fund behind her on a simple slide note gradients. No stock photos. We're publishing a quarterly transparency dashboard, she said. You will see the numbers at the same time the market does headcount, audit milestones, capital deployed. We're not guessing our way through this. A hand went up in the front row, a shift supervisor from the New Jersey plant. What if my team isn't labeled core? Then the retraining fund pays for a reskill path or placement, Lena said. We're not outsourcing pain. We're managing through it openly. Silence, then a thin line of applause that turned into real clapping. Not relief, permission to breathe. When it ended, Combs hustled her down the hall. On a wall monitor, a crawl announced the next punch. Read capital. Open letter to Carter shareholders. The PDF loaded like a threat. Carter's current leadership appears. More interested in optics than outcomes. An ethics clause is a fig leaf for entrenchment. We propose adding 3 independent directors with operational expertise to evaluate strategic alternatives, including divestiture. 3 names followed, each with enough resume to impress a resume. The letter called Lena an interim CFO with limited public company experience, a line calibrated to sting. A footnote referenced rumors of back-channel discussions with a white knight fund, and asked if Carter's management was picking favorites. Arthur read it once and set the printout down like it smelled. He's going for a proxy fight. Naomi chimed in over speaker. He hired a top proxy advisor this morning. Expect a campaign that sounds like governance and acts like harassment. Ethan texted, I'll stay dark. You own the microphone. Numbers beat letters. For an hour, Lena signed off on rebuttal lines and refused to punch down. She wouldn't call Reed's nominees puppets. She would ask the obvious. Why attack transparency with independent directors whose consulting fees were tucked into shells? By 7:30, she walked into an elevator with mirrored walls and saw what the day had taken edges, not fatigue. When the doors opened on 32, Kara James Hethen's ops lead was waiting with a single page. Quick thing, Kara said, tone neutral. Some odd call patterns. A sitting director has had 5 calls with Reed's proxy advisor in the last 48 hours. Times line up with the fake riff leak. Arthur asked. Kara held her gaze to Lena first, then to Arthur. James Holloway. Arthur's face stayed stone. He'll say it's diligence. Then he can say it to the board, Lena said. In the room, they had 3 hours to prep. The board dinner started with the kind of air kisses that precede a war. White tablecloths, a skyline view, and a private room whose soundproofing couldn't muffle agenda. Holloway arrived late, all contrition. Market's jittery, he said, sliding into his chair. I'm taking temperature with Reed's lobbyist, Arthur asked. A proxy advisor, Holloway corrected. Independent Naomi, dialed in on a center speaker, didn't raise her voice. Independent would mean they're not running Reed's 3D strategy. Holloway pivoted. Look, we've got an interim CFO, and rumors say she's coordinating with Cole. That's a conflict. The table stilled. Lena set down her water, palms flat. There are no side letters. Cole Strategic has signed an ethics undertaking, a no hostile covenant, no advisory kickback, and an exit clause we can pull if they breach. Their team reports to me. Our commitments are published. If you're seeing a rumor, ask who benefits from it. Holloway gestured toward the window, toward Manhattan as if it were a jury. Shareholders benefit from options. Reed's board slate isn't crazy. It adds experience we lack. Arthur leaned forward, elbows on linen. What we lack is patience for dirty structure. If you take Reed's calls, say so on the record. If you want to amend the board, propose it on the record. But don't launder his talking points through governance buzzwords. Easy, Arthur, Holloway said, smiling for the room. We're on the same team. Lena slid a folder across a one-page. Board conduct note Naomi had drafted. Disclosure of contact with activist funds. Commitment to route materials through counsel. Prohibition on distributing internal drafts. Sign it, Lena said. All of you. The signatures came slowly at first. Then, with the resigned efficiency of people who preferred not to be the story. Holloway hesitated a beat longer than anyone else and then signed. Over dessert, Arthur excused himself for a call. Holloway drifted to Lena. Don't take the interim line personally, he said, as if he were consoling her. Markets like grown-ups, then stop selling them bedtime stories, she said, not smiling. He lifted a hand in surrender. We'll see what the vote says. On the sidewalk, the city had the sharp smell it gets after a hard day. A black SUV. Inside, Ethan sat in the back, a glow of a laptop on his face. Lena stopped at the open window. I stayed dark, he said, closing the screen. You're bored. Signed a conduct note, she said. One of them is chatting with Reed's proxy shop. He signed anyway. Good, Ethan said. Ink beats rumor. She could feel the humor rise and fall in her. You always talk like a term sheet. Only on Tuesdays, he said. Her phone vibrated. Reed's letter is getting pickup, but the dashboard is beating it in comments. Also, check your email something on Arthur. Lena opened the attachment while Ethan watched her eyes change. It was a scan of a 20-year-old NDA from a tiny acquisition Carter had done in the early 2000s. Nothing criminal. Just optics. A founder shunted into a consulting role with generous fees, while a plant quietly closed 6 months later. The signature at the bottom was Arthur Carter. Reed's going to paint your father as a hypocrite, Ethan said quietly. Not pity diagnosis. My father played by the era's rules, Lena said, more to herself than to him. Now he's going to be tried by ours. Then judge first, Ethan said. Own it before he weaponizes it. She pocketed the phone. I have a board to face and a father to brief, she said. And a proxy fight to starve. Need a ride? He asked. Subway's faster, she said, and stepped back. Thanks for staying behind the spreadsheets. Thanks for standing in front of them, he replied. The SUV pulled away. Lena watched the taillights dissolve into midtown traffic and thought about the word interim, about how men used it like a synonym for temporary when what they meant was disposable. She wasn't disposable. The name on the building wasn't, either. But both would need to be accountable to math, to memory, to a version of ethics that didn't flinch when it turned inward. Back upstairs, she drafted a paragraph for tomorrow's release. Legacy, reviewing, independent look at past closures and consulting arrangements, including that 2000s deal. No excuses, just sunlight. She sent it to Naomi with a single line. Make this bulletproof. On the news crawl. A new tease rolled. Reed slams interim CFO. Carter adds jobs dashboard. The anchor looked bored. The market looked steady. Cracks had appeared, proxy letters, leaky directors, old ghosts. But cracks let in light if you decided that's what they were for. Tomorrow, she'd aimed the light at her own house first. By 8 a.m., the story had a new angle. A national business site ran an op-ed with a headline built to bruise, "White Knight," or "Wolf in Kashmir." The piece stitched together photos of Ethan Cole entering the Carter building, grainy, from the service entrance. Anonymous quotes about quiet teams, and a line that landed like a gavel. If management wants ethics, why invite a fund to camp inside the walls? Lena killed the tab. Clean plans didn't stand a chance against a headline that clever and lazy at once. Her phone lit with Naomi Brooks. "We traced last night's op-ed tip to a PR shop that's worked for Reed's proxy advisor," Naomi said. "Nothing illegal, just swampy. Perception beats provenance," Lena said. "What's the board temperature?" Naomi exhaled. "Fevers. 3 directors worry the working group makes us look captured." A second line flashed Arthur Carter. "Conference room." "Now," he said. "No hello." The room felt colder than the glass. Arthur stood at the head of the table. The board conduct note Lena had forced through last night set under a paperweight like a dare. "We are not giving Reed a clean shot," Arthur said, voice controlled, eyes not. "But we are not letting Cole write our optics, either. Suspend the White Knight working group." Publicly, Lena kept her posture neutral. "If we yank them, we look like we blinked. If we don't, we look bought," Arthur said. Holloway called at 6. He floated a motion to review conflicts. "It will pass unless you move first." "Conflicts?" Lena snapped. Cole signed, "No hostile, no kickbacks. Exit clause and they report to me." "None of that matters if the photograph becomes the fact," Arthur said softly. "You said clean, not clever. Choose clean." There it was, the line between what she wanted and what the company needed. She could defend the structure all day. She couldn't fix a headline with a paragraph. "Fine," Lena said. "We suspend the team. But we pair it with 2 announcements. Legacy Review Independent, including your old NDA and a vendor sunlight policy. If we're going to bleed, we'll do it in daylight." Arthur's jaw eased. "Just do it." She texted Ethan, "Need to talk. In person." He replied with a floor number she didn't expect. The roof was quiet, grey light pooling on the parapet. Ethan stood at the edge, hands in pockets. City cooling around him like steel. "I need to pull your team," Lena said, choosing bluntness over preamble. "Not because of the work, because of the picture." He didn't answer immediately. He had a talent for pausing without making people squirm. "Understood," he said at last. "No protest, no pitch. Just a flat acceptance that costs something. I'll say it's our choice," she added. "Because it is. We'll keep the term sheet live. We'll meet by council. I'll take the optics hit." "You shouldn't," he said. "I came through the service entrance to avoid this exact shot. That's on me." Silence collected in the wind. A gull cut through the whine of sirens far below. "This isn't a breakup," Lena said, hating that she had to make the distinction. "It's a pullback," Ethan said. Different word, same ache. She almost smiled and didn't. "You always talk like a term sheet." "Only when it keeps me from saying something stupid," he said. She looked at him, really looked, and saw the thing she hadn't named, how easy it had become to lean on the steadiness, to want it near. "Your ops lead Kara was good," she said, a way of honoring the work while undoing it. "Tell her thank you." "I will," he said. Then, quieter, you're doing the right thing. Clean is slow. Slow loses headlines and wins quarters. I need both, she said. You'll get one, he said. Usually the right one. Her phone buzzed. Naomi, drafts ready, legacy review plus vendor sunlight. Also, Reed filed a demand to inspect stockholder list. Proxy fight formally engaged. We're out of time, Lena said. Ethan nodded toward the stairwell. Then you should make the numbers louder. She left first. He stayed with the skyline a moment longer, as if translating it at noon. The Carter site posted 3 items: legacy review, independent counsel to examine past closures and consulting arrangements, including early 2000s deals signed by Arthur Carter, vendor sunlight policy, public registry of advisors, fees, and scopes for any strategic engagement working group pause. The White Knight team suspended pending audit milestones. All discussions to run through council. The internal memo called it a reset. The external read it as restraint. The market squinted, then shrugged. Reed did not. At 12:22, Reed Capital uploaded a video with a tasteful blue background and a tone of civic disappointment. Carter's leadership caves to optics while ducking accountability, Marcus declared. They admitted to ancient sins but refuse fresh oxygen. Our slate will provide it. At 12:37, a process server delivered a book and records demand. At 1:05, a friendly outlet ran source chatter that Lena had romantic ties to Ethan. Another fiction. Another frame. Naomi's text landed like a triage order. Don't dignify the romance angle. Publish process. Seat counsel between you and Cole in every room, and make one loud move that isn't reactive. Lena stared at the line. One loud move on, felt the click of a decision she didn't enjoy. She walked to Arthur's office. I need you to go on camera, she said. Not a letter. A 5-minute video. You say we're proud of our name, that we made mistakes by the rules of another era, and that we invited strangers into our books on purpose. Then you say we paused a partner because ethics also means independence. Arthur's eyebrows lifted. I haven't apologized on camera in 30 years. Then make this the first one worth doing, Lena said. Or Reed will make one for you. Arthur watched his daughter the way men watch storms they can't outflank. He nodded once. Write it. I'll read it raw. She turned to leave and stopped. One more thing. I'll distance from Cole publicly. It'll land like a scold. I need you not to pile on. I won't, Arthur said. He let a beat pass. But you will have to live with the distance. I already do, she said. By 3, the camera was up in the boardroom. Arthur Reed without polish and with gravity. He said the words I approved that deal about the old NDA. He said we pause about Ethan without making it a betrayal. He said audit like he meant it and people like he remembered why. The clip ran at 4. The market nudged green. Comments on the dashboard thread outpaced Reed's open letter to 2-1 at 5. Lena stood by the window with a paper cup of coffee that had given up heat hours earlier. Cara James knocked and stepped in with a manila envelope. For when you unsuspend us, Cara said. Inside, a risk register, color-coded, annotated, ready. No optics. Just prep. Thank you, Lena said. Cara nodded once, marine precise, and left. Lena texted Ethan a photo of the envelope, for later. A grey bubble appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. I'll still be here when later is now, he wrote. Her chest pulled in two directions at once, toward the company and toward the person who had been easiest to count on. She set the phone down without replying. If she answered now, she might say something that made the day easier and the next week harder. Her screen blinked with a breaking alert. Read files suit seeking to compel annual meeting early. Another move. Another clock. Clean was slow. Slow was also relentless. She closed her eyes, saw the roof, the wind, the pause that was not a goodbye, and went back to work. By morning, Reed had found a judge. A push alert crawled across Lena's lock screen at 7:12 a.m. Reed Capital seeks draw to advance Carter annual meeting. The application was a blitz expedite, the calendar. Seat his slate early. Freeze self-serving initiatives. Overreach dressed as urgency, Naomi said on speaker as Lena paced the window. Hearing at 2. I'll handle the law. You handled the optics. Optics had a way of colonizing everything. At 9:03, COMMS pinged a new fire. A blog no one respected but everyone doom-scrolled had posted the Kolkata Pact. A screenshot of an email allegedly from Lena to Ethan. We'll stage the pause to cool the cameras. Then push assets to your side quietly. It looked damning and read cheap. Naomi's text followed fast. Fake DKIM fails. Header spacing wrong. Timestamp mismatched to Carter mail servers. Then a second text that cut differently. Arthur saw it first on TV. Arthur's door was already open when Lena reached it. The TV above the credenza replayed the screenshot while a host sighed theatrically about backroom friends. Arthur muted it and looked at his daughter, not furious. Was hurt. It's fabricated, Lena said. We can prove it in an hour. Arthur held up a palm. I know what fakery looks like. I also know the market moves before corrections. He set his pen down. I have to consider the board, the case, the name. For the next 10 days, you step back from negotiations. Publicly, it landed like a clean fracture. You're benching me, Lena said, keeping her voice steady. I'm protecting the company, Arthur said, softer than his words. Naomi still reports to you, but term sheets and cameras flow through me in council until the hearing and the 3D dust settle. And what does it look like when the interim CFO gets sidelined the week a fake rumor lands? She asked. It looks like you think it might be true. It looks like we don't feed a narrative, he said. This is temporary. Temporary had been the word men used when they meant for as long as I need it to be. Fine, Lena said. We announce it my way. I'll post a statement to remove distractions. I'm recusing from White Knight discussions pending the audit milestones. I'll keep the dashboard and governance. I won't cede process. Arthur's jaw eased, barely. Write it. I'll back it. She nodded, left, and didn't let herself feel it until the door shut. How authority could evaporate under the right light at noon. The post went live. CFO recusal on strategic talks pending audit. It was clinical. It was true. It also burned. Ethan called once. She didn't pick up. He texted instead. Saw it. I hate it. I understand it. She typed and deleted. Typed again. We'll keep counsel in the middle. Deliverables only. No calls. The bubble popped up. Copy. Then another. For what it's worth, I didn't believe the email for a second. She didn't answer at 1:20. Naomi and Lena walked into Part 53, a high-ceilinged courtroom. where business disputes pretended to be about law and were really about momentum. Reed's counsel wore perfect indignation. He called Carter's pause cosmetic, the ethics clause entrenchment theater, and Arthur's video a confession without remedy. Naomi stood with a binder and 2 exhibits. "Your Honor, they're asking you to change your calendar because they like storms," she said, voice even. "Carter has announced a third-party audit, a jobs covenant, and a vendor sunlight policy. We're not hiding a ball. We're showing the ball, the bat, and the umpire." Reed's lawyer waved the blog screenshot like it was evidence. Naomi didn't blink. "We stipulated to stipulate, that's fabricated," she said. "We've provided DKIM fails and server logs. If they want to put fake emails in papers, we can make a separate application for sanctions. Today's question is timing and harm." The judge rubbed his temple. "I don't do theater," he said, which was its own theater. He took it under advisement. No ruling from the bench. Outside, cameras waited. Arthur set his shoulders and walked to them. "We invited strangers into our books," he said. "We set standards before we set prices. We won't be rushed because someone likes headlines." Lena stood a step behind him and to the left, visible, not central. A reporter shouted, "Ms. Carter, are you recusing because of your relationship with Mr. Cole?" "I recused because the audit comes first," she said, calm as a ledger. "Ethics isn't an adjective for me. It's a sequence." Ethan watched from a live stream in a back seat 2 blocks away, jaw tight. He had never wanted the microphone anyway. Watching her refuse to perform felt like a better version of victory than he'd planned for. The afternoon refused to let up. A 3:05, Naomi DMD Lena. "We've got a chain on the fake email." It originated from a Reed consultant's laptop, bounced through a coffee shop network near their proxy firm. Sloppy, want to hit. Lena stared at the message. Hitting felt good. Hitting sloppily would feel better. "We keep it in our pocket," she typed. "If the judge rules against us, we file for sanctions. If he rules for us, we act like adults." At 3:40, a courier delivered something that wasn't a complaint or a leak. A neat white square box with a card that read, "For later." She left the box unopened under her desk. Later had turned into a country she didn't have a passport for, at 4:12. HR flagged a different crack. 2 engineers had received LinkedIn messages offering retention bonuses if they pushed internal documents to friendly journalists. Kara traced the burner profiles to the same cluster of IPs Naomi had just given her. Someone wasn't just running a rumor war. They were trolling for leakers. "Lock down permissions on the dashboard repo," Lena told Kara. "Add an approval gate. Put your name on it. If anyone wants to call that entrenchment, they can spell it." "Copy," Kara said. "Also wheat, I'll think about it," Lena said, and lied at 6. The judge's order hit Pacer. Trod denied. No early meeting. No freeze. He wanted real audits, real numbers, and something called less performative acrimony. Naomi forwarded it with a rare flourish. "We live to sequence another day." Arthur came to her doorway, uncharacteristically empty-handed. "Good work," he said. It was inadequate and exactly enough. "Temporary," Lena echoed, a different ring to the word now. He watched her a moment. "This morning wasn't about belief," he said, the apology hiding in the syntax. "It was about weatherproofing." "I know," she said, and she did. but knowing didn't reattach anything that had snapped. She waited until he left, then texted Naomi, greenlight the audit firm. Full mandate. Names on the letterhead tomorrow. Then to Kara, sign the gate. Publish the changelog. Her last text of the night she typed twice, then sent once. Thank you for the flowers. Keep the distance. We need it. The reply came back. Distance isn't the same as doubt. Keep the line open for the work. She put the phone face down. On the news crawl, the chyron shifted. Judge denies Reed trawl. Carter audit moves ahead. Another storm, another window repaired. Lena turned off her monitor. The white box under the desk stayed closed. Clean was still slow, but today slow had held. Tomorrow the work would need a louder number and a quieter heart. The judge's denial bought time, not peace. By morning, Reed had pivoted from the courthouse to the court of opinion. His governance podcasts sprouted everywhere, all with the same refrain. Carter needs adult supervision. Lena ignored the noise and did the one thing noise hates. She made a checklist. Audit firm engagement signed. Dashboard gate live. Vendor registry published. Clean wasn't theatrical. It was repetitive. At 9:40, Kara James slid into Lena's glass-walled conference room with a laptop and a flat voice. We're still seeing odd pulls on internal Draftsteiny deltas, like someone is screen-grabbing instead of downloading. If I had to guess, it's a leaker with just enough sense to avoid the obvious logs. Watermark the next draft. Lena asked. More than that, Kara said. We seed honey tokens 4 near-identical versions of the same board memo with microscopic differences. A space here, a comma there, a phantom in a header. Each version goes to a different board inbox. If any fragment appears in the wild, we know whose copy leaked. Lena looked at her like a swordsmith. Do it. At 11:05, Naomi called. Heads up. ISS is drafting its proxy recommendation this week. They like your audit and the jobs covenant, but they're wary of the working group pause. If you want to tilt, give them something that says you're not hiding in the comfort of process. We give them sunlight with teeth, Lena said. I'll hand them a legacy review mandate letter with names and dates. Publish it. Naomi paused. You're going to announce that before the board blesses it. The board follows the audit, Lena said. Not the other way round. At noon, Lena walked into a cafeteria town hall with a paper cup of soup she wouldn't drink. She spoke for 6 minutes, all verbs and numbers, then took questions. A machinist asked if audit meant witch hunt. She answered it didn't. It meant receipts. A junior PM asked if Reed would win. She said winning isn't a mood, it's sequencing. They were doing that when it ended. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Kara Honey tokens live. The leak came at 3:18 p.m. A finance blogger posted a cropped screenshot of a Carter internal memo, the kind of half-document designed to cause maximum speculation. The tiny phantom dot visible only if you knew to look sat in the upper right margin like a bruise. It matched version B. Version B had been sent to one inbox. Director James Holloway. Kara stepped into Lena's office with her laptop already turned, finger on the dot. You've got your leaker, she said. We don't accuse, Lena said. We document. Naomi joined by video. Legal vowels, sharp. We convene an emergency board session. We present the doc hygiene, the watermark, the chain. We don't editorialize. We ask a question he can't answer without admitting a breach of duty. Arthur arrived, with the face he wore for funerals and earnings calls. "Do it," he said. The emergency session began at 5:05. Holloway logged in from his home office, a tasteful bookcase behind him and the confident tilt of a man used to lullabies in the language of governance. Naomi shared a screen, the 4 versions, the subtle differences, the dot. "Mr. Holloway, this dot appears in the image published at 3:18 p.m. today. The only recipient of version B was you. Please explain." Holloway's face did several things at once: annoyance, then offense, then the performative sadness of a misunderstood public servant. "This is absurd. You can't prove I leaked anything. My email is secure. Anyone could have accessed your inbox." Naomi asked. "Then you should report a breach." "I will," he said. "Good," Naomi replied. "It will coordinate. In the meantime, per the board conduct note you signed, you are required to route any third-party outreach through counsel. Our logs show 5 calls with Reed's proxy advisor within 48 hours. Did you route them?" Holloway stared off-screen, then back. "I talked to many stakeholders. That wasn't the question," Arthur said, voice stripped to metal. Holloway's volume rose. "This board is circling wagons around a CFO who Lena didn't raise her voice, who, recused from negotiations, published the job metrics, and invited strangers into our books. The wagons are circling the standard, not me." Silence. "The kind that changes careers." Naomi closed the loop. "Council recommends the board request Mr. Holloway's immediate resignation for cause. Appoint an independent audit committee chair tonight, and file an 8K disclosing both the attempted leak and the governance steps taken. We will also supply the watermark evidence to regulators." Arthur looked from Naomi to the faces in the GRID, and then to his daughter. "All in favor?" Hands went up, one by one, some brisk, some reluctant, none dissenting. Holloway's window flickered, then disappeared from the grid. Lena breathed only when the click confirmed he was gone. "Next," Arthur said, rallying the board while still sounding like a father. "We appoint an audit chair." Naomi had 2 candidates. Lena chose the one who had once sued his own company to publish a restatement. If you wanted to sell sunlight, hire a sunburnt guide. The 8K posted at 7:12 p.m. It was dry and lethal. Resignation, appointment, investigation, audit mandate expanded. The press release that accompanied it read like a promise without perfume. The dashboard updated with a new tile. Governance actions timestamped. LINKEDISS. Analyst emailed Naomi at 8:04. Appreciate the transparency. Will weigh accordingly. That was as close as a proxy shop got to affection. 8:30. Lena's phone rang with a number she knew by muscle memory and had avoided by discipline. She let it go once, twice, then answered. "I saw the 8K, Ethan said, voice steady and low. "That's how you do it. No adjectives, just verbs." "We had help," Lena said, meaning Naomi and Kara and everyone who kept showing up. "You built the standard," he said. "They just held it with you." She looked at the unopened white flower box still under her desk, then out at the city throwing light like confetti no one wanted to sweep. "Holloway will tell a story," she said. "Reed will amplify it. Then tell a better one," Ethan said. "About choices. It plays better than purity." There was a pause that wasn't empty. "I'll see you at a distance," he added. "At a distance," she said. She hung up, then drafted an internal note that would publish at 6 a.m. Why we filed 4 bullet points, no bile. She explained honey tokens like a nurse explains a needle com, purposeful, apologetic only for the sting. At 9:10, Naomi texted a photo. ISS draft leaning with management. Lena didn't exhale. She allowed herself the smallest nod. Drafts weren't votes. But the tide had shifted half a degree, and sometimes that's how ships miss ice. She shut off her monitor. The white box remained closed, a future-oriented object in a present that didn't have room for it. Clean was still slow. Tonight it was also loud enough to register dot on the crawl. A new Chiron crept. Carter forces director out after leak. Expands audit. It wasn't poetry, but it translated. Amid the mess, a frame held. Tomorrow, Reed would change keys. She would, too. But for the first time in weeks, the window didn't rattle. The shareholder meeting began like a weather report charts, disclaimers, a lawyer's baritone. But beneath the choreography, everyone felt the storm. On one side, Reed Capital, armed with slogans and a slate. On the other, Carter, armed with audits, a jobs covenant, and a steadier pulse than last week. Lena stood behind the curtain, palms flat on a folder labeled Governance Actions. Out on the floor, Arthur sat center. Naomi was 2 seats over, expression as unreadable as a sealed envelope. Cara James hovered off stage with a tablet. The new audit committee chair a row behind her, already sunburned by sunlight. The chair of the meeting read motions like recipes. Proposals 1 through 3 sailed. Proposal 4, the one that matteredly at the room. Reed's candidates versus management's slate. A screen pulled up the proxy cards. Percentages danced. ISS had leaned toward management. The big long-only funds followed the math. But the swing would come from the retail votes, the ones who wanted less theater and more receipts. The count froze at 49.8% versus 48.9%. A pause engineered to terrorize. Then it ticked. 50.2% for management. 49.1% for Reed. A breath. Another tick. 50.7%. For 85%, the room exhaled. The chair announced, "Management's nominees are elected." Arthur's shoulders eased a fraction. Naomi's eyes closed once, a private blessing to due process. Cara sent Lena a single-word text from 3 feet away, held. Reed requested time at the microphone. He got 60 seconds and used all of them. A sermon about entrenched leadership and fear of change. He did not mention the leaked dot or the denied draw. He did not mention his proxy advisor's side hustle in tips. He did mention adult supervision, which landed differently now that an audit chair with a spine sat 2 rows back. When he finished, the room did not boo. It simply moved on. The chair recognized Arthur. He walked to the podium with no notes. "Thank you for the votes of confidence and for the doubts," he said. "Doubts keep us honest. We're not perfect. We're accountable. We announced an independent legacy review because we owe truth to our people and our name. We published a jobs covenant because numbers are better than promises. And we will complete a third-party audit because sunlight is not a slogan for us. It's policy." He looked toward the wings. "Our CFO has recused herself from certain strategic talks during the audit milestones to keep the process clean. She has also built the standards that got us here. Thank you, Lena." A round of applause rolled across the room, not thunder. Something sturdier. Recognition. Lena stepped to the mic, only long enough to say, "We'll keep the dashboard loud," and stepped back. The board ratified the audit chair. The meeting adjourned outside. Cameras waited for blood and got numbers instead. Headlines spun the same sentence 3 ways. Carter fends off Reed. Audit to proceed. Stocks blinked green dot back upstairs. The boardroom smelled like coffee and relief. The audit chair shook Lena's hand. "Keep filing," he said. "Every quarter you make it boring is a quarter you win." Arthur held out a document with the quiet of a proud father pretending to be a chairman. "The board voted while you were downstairs," he said. "Interim comes off your title." The letter named her chief financial officer. No asterisk, no timer. He didn't hug her. The room wasn't built for it. But his eyes did something that felt like one. Lena nodded once, throat tight. "We'll earn it every quarter. Every day," Arthur corrected. And this time, the correction felt like a gift. Naomi gathered her binders. "I'm going to file something dull," she said, which in Naomi meant vital. "Try not to trend for 2 hours." Kara handed Lena a manila folder, the same one from last night, updated. "When you unsuspend the working group," she said simply. Lena slid it into her bag. Soon she found Ethan on the roof at dusk, because that was where decisions felt honest. The skyline had the kind of light that turns glass into withers. He didn't ask for the vote count. He could read it in her face. "Congratulations," he said, as if the word weighed something. "We held," she said. "On numbers, not charisma. Those are the only wins you can spend," he said. She stepped beside him at the parapet. For a moment, neither spoke. The city hummed sirens, laughter, a helicopter somewhere over the river. Relief didn't arrive as a shout. It arrived as quiet. "I'm reinstating the working group," she said. "After the first audit milestone. Same conditions. No hostile, no kickbacks, exit clause. You'll still report to me, and we'll still meet through council until the review is public." "I'd have said the same," he replied. "Even if we'd lost." She looked at him, and the rest. He didn't move closer. He didn't make it harder. "I'm not asking you to fight the company and the rumor mill and me," he said. "I can be patient. Clean is slow." She almost laughed. "That's what you said about winning quarters. It applies," he said. The corner of his mouth admitting he knew he sounded like a term sheet again. She reached into her bag and pulled out the unopened white box of flowers, placed it on the parapet between them. "For later," she said, "but not forever." He nodded, understanding how few words could do heavy work. "Then here's my counteroffer," he said lightly. "We celebrate every boring milestone. First audit complete, 1 slice of pizza. Jobs covenant verified, 2. Audit chair publishes the first nasty footnote, 3. She shook her head, smiling despite fatigue. "You just turned romance into a cruel accounting." "It keeps me honest," he said, "and available." She looked back at the skyline and, for the first time in weeks, allowed herself something unstrategic hope. Not as a headline, but as a habit. Her phone buzzed. Naomi at K filed. "ISS final tomorrow. Go home." Another buzz, Arthur proud. "Dinner? No cameras." A third, Carragate held. "Sleep." The chorus of people who had carried the standard with her. Lena tucked the phone away. "One condition," she told Ethan. "If we do this, we keep the same rule as the company. Ethics first. Sequence second. Optics last." "Deal," he said. and didn't reach for her hand, which somehow meant more. They stood there until the blue hour turned black. Below, the building breathed a company, choosing the slow, stubborn road of being worth its name. Above, the lights argued with the dark in a familiar draw. When she finally left the roof, Lena carried the folder in one hand and the flower box in the other. Neither was urgent. Both were real. Downstairs, the crawl said what crawls always say: too little, too late. Carter defeats activist. CFO confirmed. Audit underway. It wasn't poetry. It was a frame that would hold. Clean had not been quick. Slow had not been easy. But slow had held. And that, she decided as the elevator doors closed, was the only kind of love and leadership she could live with. The email arrived at 3:06 p.m. Audit milestone 1 completed. No confetti. No trumpet, just a signed letterhead and 3 dense pages of footnotes that said, "In their own dry way, we told the truth." Lena read it twice, then sent a single word to the group thread: done. 10 minutes later, she was in a corner booth at a no-frill slice shop 2 blocks from the office. Grease-stained paper plates, the hum of a soda fountain. Exactly the right setting for a victory that didn't need adjectives. Arthur arrived first, tie loosened. He looked at the letter on her phone, then at his daughter. "I was wrong about speed," he said. "You were right about sequence." He lifted a slice like a toast. "Too boring, boring," she echoed, and they ate. The silence between them finally comfortable. Ethan walked in last. No entourage, a folded term sheet in his pocket he didn't take out. He set a single slice on the table and, by mutual consent, beside the math, not the optics. "1 slice for milestone 1, he said. "Rules are rules," Lena replied, smiling. They talked about nothing urgent. Kara's ridiculous color-coded risk register. Naomi's plan to frame the next 8K with fewer semicolons. Arthur's memory of the first invoice he ever signed. When they stepped back into the early evening, the city sounded ordinary. That was the point. They had made honesty routine, and in the routine, something warmer could finally begin.